Good evening and welcome to another section of Underground Railroad. I'm hosting this show for Clifford, and I want to thank him for inviting me here because over the years we've been very close hearts over in Green Street, the studio there. Well, again, I said I'm Dr. Lee Warren. I'm from the Power Late Man television show, or that we often refer to as the Plum Show. We come on TV at every Wednesday from 8:30 to 9:30, and it's reshown for on Thursday from 10:30 a.m. from 10:30 to 11:30 a.m. And we've been on it for about, I guess, since the 1990s. So I guess it's about, pretty close to 25 or 30 years here. And I have my co-host here, my wife, soulmate, and we're going to discuss this evening the financial situation that we have here in the world and also here in the U.S. But before that, let me give you my phone number for Plymouth, 773
509-8124.
Again, 773-509-8124.
And we have a website, www.plim2.org. www.plim2.org.
And the phone number?
773-509-8124.
And the email number?
Plim, Plim _1335 at iCloud.com.
Okay, then. My wife is going to ask me some questions concerning what is taking place. And you don't need much information, should I say. You can just look at the neighborhoods and see what truly has taken place since, I guess, January of 2009, or really, I guess you could say February, when we began to have the shutdown for COVID-19. And it wrecked the whole world. And what they did in 2020 was they shut down the economy for 3 months. That's the whole world. I mean, the whole world. And most people were terrified at COVID because, as they preached, there wasn't a cure, which there is a cure naturally. There's certain basic things that you can take, and some of the things are right in your refrigerator. That's garlic, for one. And other things, but as we get into the show, we may discuss that. But as they shut down the economy, that really destroyed many of the local middle-class businesses established. That's your restaurants and local businesses. They were just literally destroyed because they had to shut down for three months. And the only thing that was left open was your big stores. That's your Targets, Whole Foods, Jewel, Home Depot. All these stores were left open. So they had a chance to expand their market as a result of most of the small businesses closing down. And they still have not recovered.
And how many of a percent of the American business is small
businesses, they expect really 50 to 60, some places 70% of the small businesses have actually closed. And listen, we're not talking about in the hood. See, you can go to some of your nice neighborhoods here in Chicago, Lincoln Park, along the Gold Coast. I'm going to give you one statistic that's going to really startle you. Now, one of the main tourist attractions here in the state of Chicago is the Magnificent Mile. Mm-hmm. Did you know that Macy has just pulling out of the water tower down on Michigan Avenue?
It will no longer be an anchor store.
It will no longer be the anchor store. So I guess the only one that'll be left over was the old Marshall Field that there at State Street there. So, but here's the big clincher: 20%. I said 2.0, but it's really like 17.9, 18%, rounding up. 20% of Magnificent Mile is vacant. I'll say it again, 20% of the Magnificent Mile is vacant. And see, you got rent running through the roof there, 5, 6, 18, maybe 20,000 a month that retailers have to pay. But they are pulling, and they have just shut down. There's no restaurants downtown. Most of the hotels down there are, instead of being 75 and 80% occupancy, we're down about 25 or 30. See? So in other words, what we're telling you basically is that you have entered the Great Depression. We had the one in 1929, which my father was and mother were born in 1922, so they were children at that time. So we're going into another one that will make that one look like a walk in the park, and people have not been prepared for this. So as we said, you got about 50 to 60% of the restaurants have closed down. We're not talking about Joe's barbecue place on the south side or Jose taco place. We're talking about big hotels downtown that do a huge amount of business. And since we had the COVID, that shut down the convention. Chicago just about broke. I can just say, if you want to look at the taxes gonna have to go up. It's just one crazy thing. And here's the clincher. Less than 1/2 of 1% of the people die. I say that again. Less than 1/2. That's 1%, and 0.5% people die. So how in the hell? This is crazy and madness. If you look at the people that've been killed by auto accidents and just shooting and murders here, it'll be just about the same. But you don't shut down the whole economy. They shut down the whole thing, and it was devastating, and especially in the Democratic states. If you went to Indiana, they stayed open. If you went to Florida, they stayed open. Texas stayed open. There's a lot of states that basically stayed open and weathered to this. But when you shut down your economy, literally, on 0.5%, then we have problems.
So, in your prediction of 2021, do you think this election is going to be re-adjudicated, fraud subtracted from the tally, and President Trump declared the winner? What do you think about this election?
That's going to be one hell of a constitutional crisis there. There's no question that it was fraud there. It was not, the Supreme Court didn't accept it when Texas filed there for the Supreme Court. So they didn't want to deal with it. The states didn't want to deal with it. The legislators didn't want to deal with it.
And Pence didn't decertify the votes January 6th.
He didn't decertify. Nobody wants to deal with the hot potato. Okay. See, so there's going to be some problems here, and the country is split down the middle, and you got a crazy economy that's taking place here.
Do you think a number of political celebrities, DC swamp rats, media figures, tech company executives will be arrested and charged with serious crimes around election fraud?
But listen, the problem is that since you got the country so badly split between Democrats and Republicans, that and Biden has no way of mending the situation, bringing them together into a unified situation, then you have a split. You're just going to have a continuous split, and where the situation exists is that most of the states that really closed down, like California, Illinois, and New York. New York City is gone. I mean, you look at all you do is look. Just bring up New York City. You can see the businesses that have been closed there. So they are facing serious financial problems. People don't realize there's serious financial problems. And this is the clincher. 40 to 50 million Americans are out of work. 40 to 50. In other words, they can't pay rent now. The rent is behind, and that's a whole problem. What they did. Politicians are something else. I mean, because most people don't understand economics. They had a moratorium on the rent, preventing the people from paying the rent or from being evicted. Well, that's fine, but what about the landlords that got to pay the bank? And they got to pay the property taxes.
So however this election is reconciled, you're going to run into debt and problems with the economy. That's
the whole 9 yards.
Okay.
The economy is teetering.
Okay.
And possibly 20. If you think 20 was bad, 21 will be even worse because they didn't reconcile any of the problems in 20. So as we go into 21, we're behind the ball. So everything is going to get worse and worse.
I mean, the government, looked like it was really straining to give people $600. The little $600. That's,
That's the biggest. Listen, people do not do the investigation. If you look at what some countries gave, I think Israel, Germany, they was giving people $1,500 a month, $1,500 to $2,000 a month, just to keep the money flowing into the economy. If you lose 40 million people, well, they're not spending, and you got an economy that's a mess. I mean, people can't pay the rent.
Australia was giving $19.93 a month. Canada was giving $14.33 a month. Denmark gave up to $32.88 a month. France was giving $7,575 a month. Germany up to $73.26 a month. Ireland gave $17.93 a month. UK gave $3,084, and the US, the last ones, gave $1,200 to last for 32 weeks. And then we finally got with $600 at the end of the year.
Do you look at it and see why the economy is
Wow.
what? You can see why the economy is so messed up. Because if people don't have any money, they can't spend it. They can't spend, well, all the stores use revenue. They got to lay off folks and, matter of fact, go out of business. Just take the airlines. The airlines are down, what, 70, 80%? They laying off hundreds of thousands of folks. We're talking about pilots. We're talking about
Stewardesses.
stewardesses, you know, we're talking about everybody
People
being
that move the baggage and
that's what we said. Even executives are being laid off. So
Right.
None of this stuff is say explained on the news. So the question is, well, where are we going? We're going deeper into a deeper economic situation because, first of all, the people ain't got no money. How did they can't? You have a severe problem with homelessness this summer here in Chicago. I wouldn't be not unless they have Section 8. We expanded so that people can pay their rent.
so going back to that rent, when you were saying that the people that are renting or are paying mortgages, they got a moratorium, but then the people that they owed that money to didn't get a moratorium, so they have to. So how is that gonna be resolved? Are you just gonna print up a lot of money like they usually do?
That's the only outlet they have because listen, see, the problem is simply this: see, people they're not educated. And they don't have the critical thinking skills. And that's been, and as the Messiah told back in his day, he said, warn to your priests and lawyers, you have taken away the key of knowledge. I don't care if we're talking about black, white, blue, green, whatever your religious affiliation, you have not taught about basic economics. So if you give a moratorium on the rent, just let's follow it through.
Sure.
Okay, the guy's not paying his rent because he can't pay it.
So let's say he's behind 6 months.
He behind 6 months. Well, he can't catch up. That's almost impossible for the average man. We talk about $1,000. That's
So then
$6,000.
the landlord and the mortgages.
Now the landlord, the bank said he want their money. He said I can't get the money and I got these people. I can't put them out.
Well, wasn't that the same problem with the malls and stuff? Because people weren't coming to the malls, and the malls weren't getting the traffic, so they couldn't pay their taxes.
Well, that's what happened when they shut the thing down.
Commercial real estate is what I'm talking about.
When they shut down the whole economy, here you are with a big restaurant that you usually maybe making what, $800,000-900,000 a week. You're probably doing $20-30 million a year. We're talking about big restaurants. Now you shut them down. Well, they got to deal with overhead. They got to pay the rent. They got to pay the people there. And then after a couple of weeks, a month, they say, you know what? We ain't paying no more rent.
Right. And I know some people are saying, well, why don't you fight back, open your businesses? But if people open their businesses right now, who can come? They don't know who has the money to go to restaurants. And
the restaurants is a dead business. That was a business, like you said before, say 2019, 2018, it was a 50-50 chance that you could make it. If 5 people went into the restaurant business, you could say basically 2 or 3 would, at least 2 would fail. But the situation now is that the whole thing is shut out because nobody got no money, and those that do have money, they're terrified. They don't know if they're going to be working next week or next month. So they're trying to save as much money as they can. So you can see then the economy, and this is what you don't hear on the evening news.
Right.
They're not telling people how bad the economy is because they figure people are going to spend less when they should because they don't know what's going to happen.
Because I know this Christmas must have been devastating for all the retails because no one had any money to.
Well, see, they didn't give us, the Democrats didn't, and the Republicans, they did not give a what?
A stimulus till the last day.
And that was too late.
Yeah, and it was only $600.
It was only Listen, what can you do with $600 here in Chicago? You can't feed a dog for $600.
I know they're promising $2,000, but that's $2,000 minus $600. Right, correct?
Right. And in other words, the next one I think when Biden gets it, he's talking about was $1,400. What you need is that the people need at least 10 or 12,000 just to pay rent and just to stay aboard. That's still poverty now. Because to stay in Chicago, the average income here is $50,000 to $60,000. On the South Side, it's about 30. It's half of that.
And I know people pay a lot of attention to the Dow Jones and the stock markets, but that's never been a valid or hasn't for the last 20, 40 years indicator of economy. I mean, if the Dow may be at 30,000, but what's the person in the street really able to
He
purchase.
unemployed, and he's terrified that he may lose his job. So that's what you have here.
Okay.
And especially in the Hispanics and the African American neighborhoods, well, they totally devastated. They were hanging by a thread before, but you close. Listen, nobody has the money to stay open for 3 months. When you shut a restaurant down, especially these small family-owned restaurants, they done. And we're not talking about some of the big multi-million-dollar hotels and catering downtown for them.
And those family restaurants supported their whole family. I mean, they
That's right,
put
exactly.
children through college. They, bought cars. They bought property.
Exactly.
They did a lot of things to stimulate the economy.
That's
And
right.
if you don't have that going anymore, was the revenue that those places used to generate through taxes is now not there anymore.
No, it's not there no more.
Okay. And I know the dollar. Talk about the dollar, because the dollar fell under 80% second quarter and 60% by the end of the year.
Well, the problem is that the United States is deep in debt.
Okay.
You take the state. See, most Americans don't say most Chicagoans. If you ask them right now, what is the status of Chicago, and they couldn't tell you. They wouldn't know. They don't know Chicago's broke. The pension is way underfunded. I feel sorry for these policemen and firemen. I don't know where they're going to get the money from to come up to pay these people's pension. I mean, people working a long time.
I know.
And say you're supposed to get $5,000 or $6,000 a year. Well, you're lucky maybe to come out with $3,000 based on the money they have at hand. See, and you just can't make it on $3,000.
And what about the teachers? Because they're
Well,
threatening
that's like I said,
same
most
situation.
pensions are underfunded throughout the United States. Then the 3 biggest states are California's number 1, Illinois is number 2, and I think New York is number 3. The biggies. The taxes are crazy. People are moving out. They're moving to Texas. They're moving to They're moving down to Florida. They're moving everywhere else to try to avoid these high taxes. And so what you do, you're left with a state. You're left with a city that's going to be rich, but the rich have other places to go to, and very poor people. That's it.
So there's quite an exodus from these Democratic-run cities like Illinois and New York and.
Oh yeah, the taxes are too
In
high.
California.
People. That's one thing you can do. People that have high incomes are very mobile. Like they would say they was going to tax these people. I said, I look out to some of my friends. You think you're going to tax these white people and Jewish people? I said, they out of here. They're going to move to Florida. So you don't have a way. So the only thing you're left here with is with very middle class folks, and they can't pull the load.
What do you think about the U.S. GDP? Do you think it's going to go down by the end of 2021?
If they look at the thing, when they shut the economy down for the first half of 2020, the GDP, that's the gross national product, I say all the businesses, everything, the factories and everything, it fell 30%.
Okay.
So we don't know what it'll do this year. See, that they're for
Because
grass.
people haven't been working.
A lot of people haven't been working. They haven't come back. And then we just had, this last week, they laid off another 1 million folks. So where the hell is these folks going to work?
And since people aren't using their cars a lot, what's happening to U.S. oil production?
Well, everything is down because basically nobody's got any money. The consumer is cutting back, and then you got 40 to 60 million. They said the government said we got 20 million. I know you got more than 20 million people. All you got to do is look at the unemployment payroll and those that was kicked off and don't have no income. So it's about 40 million people in America. That's out of 150 million people works, adults. So that's a lot of money.
And you were talking about the homeless population, going up in places like Los Angeles, places that are warm and.
Oh, it's horrible. I mean, they don't show any of this on TV where they can get in these politicians behind and tell them, you got to do something for these homeless people and see, especially out in L.A., they're going to have an epidemic, a health problem.
I know, bubonic plague maybe, because
Yeah.
the rats are proliferating.
Yeah, I mean, people, what can you do? And we're talking about these are people that had trades. We're not talking about just some dope addicts running around. We're talking about people that were highly productive in their job and they just got laid off.
Because during the 1920s, 29 and so, you see people in line. Now you see cars, lines of cars waiting for food.
That's exactly
And
right.
they are little cars. I mean, they're nice cars. They're like.
They haven't been repo yet. That's
Right.
the only thing about that. See, when you lose your income now in today's economy, you just about, if you don't have a relative or something that you can pack up and move, or a friend that can take you in, you're in big trouble. You're in big trouble.
Do you think the federal government will be forced to organize massive food giveaway programs?
Listen, that's coming. whether it be Democratic or Republican, within the next year or two, they're going to have to start giving food because the pantries, the local pantries, don't have the capacity. We're talking about, 40 million, that's like what? That's like L.A., let's see, Chicago has about, in Colorado, it's about 7 million. You talk about L.A. with about maybe 15 to 20.
New York.
Well, that's like L.A. and New York together.
Okay.
L.A. and Chicago together with all the counties outside of that. I mean, you got that many people out of work. I mean, you got to do something. And the local pantries are not, they don't have the capacity to deal with it. So the government is going to have to feed them. And not only that, you're going to have to pay the rent to somebody. You can't have all these people living in the street.
Right, because they were talking about the banking system will be thrown into disarray due to non-payment of rent and mortgages.
That's the point. Everybody has the mortgage is held by the bank.
And the federal government intervenes with direct relief, renter relief payments, and then the homeowners in default are allowed to remain in their homes on provisional status.
Well, the Depression, FDR had a moratorium on that. So what they're going to do is have a moratorium. But my question is this: if you have a mortgage, what is the mortgage worth if the guy's not paying any rent?
Right, right.
So say the house is $200,000. He's 6 months behind. Well, what is the mortgage worth to me? I'm not gonna pay. I'm not gonna pay you $200. Now the guy's in the house, he ain't paid in 6 months. What the hell wrong with you?
Right.
So the mortgage is just the bank is in trouble. So everything is one hell of a mess, and the politicians are still playing games here instead of working with these people.
This is pension funds collapse as broken chain of rent and mortgage payments destroy real estate investment trusts.
Right, that's the point. What is your pension at? Your pension is one of these buildings downtown. And if they half empty, you know what? Well, how can they pay your pension? See, nobody has really sat and thought about this stuff and said, wait a minute. It's like a chain. One thing is linked to another. There's nothing isolated in itself. And if all these people got these, it's just like the big building downtown. If it's half empty and the insurance company financed it, how is it going to be done? Got a call? Okay. Speak up. Caller, speak up.
Hello?
Hello, we hear you.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yeah, loud and clear.
All right, I can still hear you guys. I'm going to go ahead. I'm enjoying the show. This brother is very informative. And I wanted to ask him a couple of questions. And I'll sit back and listen to you guys on the show. He brought up the pension deal, right? And we know we got the teachers. They just got the raise. And you said it's going to be very hard here in a minute to pay the police and the fire department. So we already know that, like you say, these brothers, they pretty much, when you become a fireman and a police, you pretty much on that job till you retire. And they work those jobs all the way till they retire. Some of them have families that do it. So when they are trying to retire, and it's time for them to retire, what's going to happen when they can't get that money? What is going to happen when the city is crying so broke? Do you think it's ever going to come to a head because we are paying out so much money in wrongful deaths and the city is getting sued from wrongful deaths, and they have to pay out so many millions of dollars that we already upside down. So where's this money going to come from? They keep coming out with stimulus checks. You bringing up some good points that I really wish I could have written down so I can argue with some of these elders that I have conversations with a lot of times, because a lot of people, listen, they're not talking about this on the news, brother.
That's right.
They're not talking about this on the news. So this is very important information that I think you need and we need to spread along as we get it from you. But I would like to know where you think this money is going to come from with all this wrongful death lawsuits that the city has got to pay. They got to pay this. And I sit back and listen.
Okay, that's a very good point. It seems to be very informative. See, one is that let me say, the main, just look at the income of the city. Where do they get their money from? It's like it's at your household. Your main income is basically your paycheck. That's if it's $50,000, $20,000. That's what you get in every week, and you have to have that. Well, the city has the same thing. The big income is what? Real estate taxes is a big one, and you got all the taxes, sales tax. entertainment taxes. When you go down to a hotel, you got all the lists that you got to pay the. I think it's about 15. I mean, I was in a hotel down there. I told my wife, "This is crazy. It's like 20. It's like 15% taxes on this room here." And the city's still damn broke. What the hell's going on with all this money? That's the problem. Over the years, malfeasant. They didn't invest the money right. And now the problem is where the money is going to come from. Well, first of all, we already see strike one. The COVID came in and closed the hotels down. So they don't have no hotel taxes or none of them taxes downtown. And they don't have, the sales taxes fell off. So the only thing they got left, basically, is real estate taxes for the average guy. And
They can't get commercial real estate.
and the commercial real estate, but what are they going to do? The building is half empty. The guy going to say, well, I can't pay this taxes. Mm-hmm. So the problem is that there will be a lot of pressure put on the mayor and these politicians concerning coming up with this doggone money. Because these people are not going, I tell you, these people may snap.
Do you think they're just going to print it up? Is that? Well, I mean, that's what
That's
he's
a
asking.
possibility. Or what they could do. Biden is talking about giving the state so much money, the trillions of dollars. But what does that do? That the money that you creating out of
Buys
nothing.
less.
The purchasing power of the money is going down because you got so much damn money. It's like Germany with a wheelbarrow full of money,
Right.
and you can't buy a loaf of bread.
Right.
So that's that. We teetering on that. We some way from it. But the problem is, well, first of all, the people haven't even had the knowledge to start asking the question: what's going to happen to my pension? And where is money going to come from? You're going to have to start putting money going to these politicians until we want to know a detail. How you going to come up with this money? Because listen, I worked 30 years and I've been out of fighting these fires, and I've been out in the street dodging bullets and stuff. And then it comes time for us to pay these firemen and policemen, and they talking about, well, we can't pay it. What you mean you can't pay it? And that's the problem they have. But the problem is, as of now, the people don't even have the knowledge of it. They vaguely have it, but nobody has sat out and explained this thing. And it's not hard. It's not rocket science. You got income and you got outcome. That's it. Now we want to know, what are we going to do? Because we can't talk about the past. That's over with. We know you done messed up the money. See? And now it comes time for these people to retire, and the money is not there. So, and you got an economy that's slowing down, and they shut it down, so that's further compounds the situation. What they're going to try to do is borrow the money. That's the only solution that they got now, is go down to the Federal Reserve Bank and tell them we need $2 or $3 billion and be able to pay taxes on that, to pay the pension. Other than that, that's only one thing left. That's be able to borrow some money from some bank or some basically the Federal Reserve and give these people the pension. But the problem is, well, where's the money going to come from to pay off this loan? But see, they're not worried about that. But that's the problem. The problem is the people don't know the house is on fire.
Mm-hmm. So they don't even know who that they should be asking for these things to be resolved.
Right.
And they won't know until it's too late, is your point.
That's the point.
Okay. Because just go back a moment, because that's what the guy was bringing up. The pension funds collapse as broken chain of rent and mortgage payments destroy real estate investment trusts.
That's right.
So your pension fund is based on a chain of rent and mortgage payments.
When they collect all of people's pensions, and the people that pay it in their pensions, that money's not sitting somewhere. They invest that money. It may be in real estate or whatever. And if it's in real estate, so how many minutes I have here?